For over a century, our entire story of human origins has been written, well, in stone. We call it the Stone Age, right? I mean, it makes sense. Stone tools are what survive. But what if that whole story is missing half its pages? What if the most common material our ancestors actually used just rotted away, leaving us with a totally skewed version of history? Okay, let's dive into this, because we are about to reopen a very, very cold case. So let's get right to it. Was the Stone Age a lie? Well, not a lie exactly, but it's definitely a victim of what scientists call a lithic bias. Basically, we've been defining a huge chunk of human history by the one material that was tough enough to last for millions of years. You know, it's kind of like judging an entire library by the few books that didn't get burned in a fire. But what if, just what if, we could find one of those missing pages that somehow survived? And that is exactly what happened. A really crucial piece of evidence has surfaced from a site in Greece called Marathousa 1. And look, this isn't just another old rock. This is a clue that forces us to question everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human technology. It's reopening a mystery that's been cold for 430,000 years. To really understand this clue, we first have to investigate the scene of the crime, so to speak. Not just any location can preserve evidence for this long. And the setting for our cold case, the Megalopolis Basin in Greece, was an incredibly special place with this unique set of conditions that created the perfect time capsule. Now, check this out. We're talking about a time period known as Marine Isotope Stage 12. This was one of the most brutal ice ages of the last million years. While most of Europe was basically a frozen, unlivable wasteland, the Megalopolis Basin was what's called a glacial refugium. It was shielded by mountains, so it stayed a relatively stable, resource-rich sanctuary for plants, animals, and, you guessed it, the early humans who needed them to survive. The next critical detail in this whole investigation is depth. These artifacts weren't just lying on the surface. Nope. They were unearthed 30 meters, that is nearly 100 feet below the ground, buried in these ancient layers of mud and sediment. That depth literally sealed them off from the modern world, protecting them for hundreds of thousands of years. And this right here is the secret sauce. The tools were submerged in waterlogged mud, which created an anoxic or totally oxygen-free environment. Without oxygen, the bacteria and fungi that normally cause wood to just rot and disappear, well, they can't survive. It's basically nature's vacuum seal, and it is the only reason we're able to analyze this incredible evidence today. Okay, so the scene is set. Now, let's bring in the actual evidence for some forensic analysis. Out of 144 pieces of wood that were recovered at the site, 2 artifacts really stand out. These are the star witnesses in our case. And these aren't just random branches. Oh no, these are purpose-built tools. So on one hand, we have the heavy-duty workhorse, a nearly 3-foot-long digging stick made from alderwood. On the other hand, we have this tiny, delicate little tool made of willow, just over 2 inches long. This thing is a completely new type of tool. We have never seen anything like it from this time period. So what in the world were they used for? Let's examine that digging stick first. Now, the choice of alder wood, that was no accident. This was premeditated. Alder is soft enough that you can easily carve it with a simple stone flake, yet it's also incredibly shock-resistant and super stable in water. That means it wouldn't warp or crack in the wet, muddy environment by the lake. This shows a deep, practical knowledge of material science. These guys knew their stuff. But honestly, this small willow tool, this might be the biggest bombshell in the whole case. Microscopic analysis suggests it was used as a retoucher. So what does that mean? It means this was a wooden tool used to manufacture and maintain their stone tools. Think about that. This is what's called recursive technology, a tool to make other tools. And that is a massive leap in cognitive complexity. It's just wow. Okay, tools this specific, they imply a purpose, right? So to understand what they were for, we have to reconstruct the event where they were last used. And the scene that the archaeologists uncovered wasn't some quiet workshop. It was something, well, something far more dramatic. Get this. The tools were found right next to the remains of a straight-tusked elephant, the largest land animal of the entire Pleistocene. We're talking about a true megabeast. There are clear cut marks on the bones that prove our ancestors were butchering this massive animal for its meat and marrow. The wooden tools were part of their toolkit, probably used to dig around the carcass or lever heavy limbs out of the way. But as the detectives, our archaeologists, examined all the evidence, they found another piece of wood with these really strange markings on it, deep, parallel grooves. At first glance, you might think it was intentional carving, but under the microscope, the marks told a very different story. So the question is, were they alone at this feast? And here is the twist. Those grooves, they weren't from hominin tools. They were bear claw marks. Gnawing marks on the elephant bones also suggest that our ancestors weren't just butchers, they were defenders. They were in direct competition with bears, lions, and leopards for this monumental prize. This wasn't just dinner. This was a high-stakes standoff. So we've got the evidence and we've reconstructed the scene. Now it's time to build a profile of our suspect, the hominin who actually made these tools. And I want you to forget the brutish, club-wielding caveman stereotype. The individual who made these was a skilled and intelligent craftsperson. Let's just break down the mind behind these tools for a second. First, they showed selective harvesting. They knew the difference between alder and willow and chose the right wood for the right job. Second, future planning. They created durable, curated tools for repeated use, not just a one-off. Third, technological integration. They were using a complex, multi-material toolkit. And finally, the sheer ability to craft a specialized tool just 5 centimeters long that reveals incredible fine motor skills and some serious cognitive control. So after reviewing all the evidence, the scene, the tools, the context, and our suspect's profile, it is time to deliver the final verdict in this 430,000-year-old case. And the conclusion? Well, it's a total game changer. The verdict is undeniable. The Stone Age is, at best, an incomplete story. Stone was only half the picture. To truly understand our ancestors, we absolutely have to acknowledge their mastery of organic materials. So, it's time to rename the era. Welcome to the Wood and Stone Age. And to really get how big a deal this is, you have to see where it fits on the timeline. We already knew about some older structural wood use at a place called Colombo Falls, and we knew about younger, 300,000-year-old hunting spears from Schoningen. This discovery at Marathousa 1 fits perfectly in the middle, bridging this huge gap. It proves that sophisticated, handheld wooden tools were a core part of hominin technology way earlier than we ever imagined. So the really crucial point here is that this discovery finally gives us a look at what the lead researchers are calling the missing majority. For every single stone tool we find, just think about how many wooden spears or handles or digging sticks have just rotted away to nothing. Marathousa 1 is revealing a shadow toolkit that has been totally invisible to us, until now. And all of this leaves us with one last, really provocative question. If our understanding of something as basic as technology was this incomplete, what else are we totally wrong about? What other fundamental parts of the human story, of society, of culture, of intelligence are still buried in the mud somewhere, just waiting for the right conditions to finally come to light? Thank you so much for joining us as we cracked this 430,000-year-old cold case. If this journey into the Wood and Stone Age changed how you see our ancient past, let us know down in the comments. And hey, be sure to like this explainer and subscribe to Info Now for more investigations that bring these incredible hidden histories to light.